Tiger, Haribo, 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 Nitago, Haribo. Haribo, Haribo. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Astotara Satashishimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sikha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Mayapur Navadip Dham Ki Jai Purushottam Kshetra Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Kalachandji Dham Ki Jai Shri Radha Kalachandji devotees Ki Jai Ganga Jamuna Maya Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Shri Hadinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada's Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai Radha Kalachandji's Transcendental Prasadam Distribution Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, one announcement, will be High Nam today at 5 p.m. across from Trader Joe's. What a wonderful opportunity. It's Dwadasi today, so wonderful time to give out some mercy and get some mercy. So please join us, 5 p.m. and we will end in time so everyone can come back to the temple for Dhammadarastakam prayers. Hari Bol.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Kala Chandri Radha Kala Chandri Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Good morning, devotees. My name is Manjari Gopika Devi Dasi, and today we'll be hearing from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 8, verses 14 through 30, focusing on verse 23. And before we begin, I ask for your blessings, that I may speak something pleasing to my spiritual master, to Srila Prabhupada, and to all the devotees. Let's all together chant the invocation prayers. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarvasvatim vyasyam tato jayamudirayet nashtaprayesha badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya All right, so once again, today we're hearing from Canto 9, Chapter 8. We'll cover verses 14 through 30, and then we'll come back to our focus verse 23. In the interest of time, I'm going to summarize 14 through 19, and then we can pass the mic around and read 20 through 30. But just a quick little catch-up. So we started Chapter 8, was it yesterday? So before today's section, King Sagara was born miraculously after his mother survived poison given by co-wives. And then guided by the sage, Orva, he became a powerful emperor and performed great sacrifices. When Indra stole his sacrificial horse, his 60,000 sons searched for it, found it near Kapila Muni, and mistaking Kapila Muni for the thief, offended Kapila Muni, and they were burned to ashes. One surviving descendant of King Sagara was his grandson, Amshuman. Okay, and then my summary of verses 14 through 19 is this. King Sagara sent his grandson, Amshuman, to find the stolen sacrificial horse. Following the path of his uncles, Amshuman discovered the horse near the ashes of King Sagara's 60,000 sons. So if you can begin at text 20, we can read 20 through 30, and then come back to 23. Vaishnav, would you like to begin? You have the microphone.
The great Amshuman saw the sage named Kapila, the saint, who is an incarnation of Vishnu, sitting there by the horse. Amshuman offered him respectful obeisances, folded his hands, and offered him prayers with great attention.
Text 21.
Amshuman said, "My lord, even Lord Brahma is to this very day unable to understand your position, which is far beyond himself, either by meditation or by mental speculation. So what to speak of others like us, who have been created by Lord Brahma in various forms as demigods, animals, human beings, birds and beasts. We are completely in ignorance. Therefore, how can we know you, who are the transcendence?"
My Lord, you are fully situated in everyone's heart, but the living entities covered by the material body cannot see you, for they are influenced by the external energy, conducted by the three modes of material nature. Their intelligence being covered by Sattvaguna, Rajoguna, and Tamaguna, they can see only the actions and reactions of these three modes of material nature. Because of the actions and reactions of the modes of ignorance, whether the living entities are awake or sleeping, they can only see the workings of material nature. They cannot see your lordship. .
O my Lord, sages freed from the influence of the three modes of material nature, sages such as four Kumaras, Sanat, Sanaka, Sanandana, and Sanatana are able to think of you who are concentrated knowledge. But how can an ignorant person like me think of you?
O completely peaceful Lord, although material nature, fruit of activities, and their consequent material names and forms are your creation, you are unaffected by them. Therefore, your transcendental name is different from material names, and your form is different from material forms. You assume a form resembling a material body just to give us instructions like those of Bhagavad Gita, but actually you are the supreme original person. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
O my Lord, those whose hearts are bewildered by the influence of lust, greed, envy, and illusion are interested only in false heart and home in this world created by your Maya, attached to home, wife, and children. They wander in this material world perpetually.
O super soul of all living entities, O personality of Godhead, simply by seeing you, I have now been freed from all lusty desires, which are the root cause of insurmountable illusion and bondage in the material world.
O King Parikshit, when Ansuman had glorified the Lord in this way, the great sage Kapila, the powerful incarnation of Vishnu, being very merciful to him, explained to him the path of knowledge.
The personality of Godhead said, My dear Anshuman, here is the animal sought by your grandfather for sacrifice. Please take it. As for your forefathers, who have been burnt to ashes, they can be delivered only by Ganges water, and not by any other means.
Thereafter, Anshuman circumambulated Kapila Muni and offered him respectful obeisances, bowing his head after fully satisfying him in this way. Anshuman brought back the horse meant for sacrifice, and with this horse, Maharaj Saranga performed the remaining ritualistic ceremonies.
After delivering charge of his kingdom to Ashaman, and thus being freed from all material anxiety and bondage, Sagara Maharaj, following the means instructed by Aruva Muni, achieved the supreme destination.
Very cool. Thank you so much. We'll return to text 23 and chant the Sanskrit. Tam tvamaham jnanaganam svabhava pradvasta maya guna beda mohe sanandanadya muribir vibhavyam katam vimudha paribhavyayami. Would someone else like to chant? Tam tvamaham jnanagana svabhava pradvasta maya guna beda mohe sanandanadyer muribir bhivavyam katam vimudha paribhavyayami. Tam tvam aham jnanaganam svabhava pradvasta maya guna beda mohe sanandanadyer munibir vibhavyam Katam vimudha paribhavyayami. Okay, since we have this text pulled up, we can do the synonyms together. Tam, that personality. Tvam, unto you. Aham, I. Jnana ganam, your lordship, who are concentrated knowledge. Swabhava, by spiritual nature. Pradvasta, free from contamination. Maya gun, caused by the three modes of material nature. Bedha mohe, by exhibition of the bewilderment of differentiation. Sanandana Adyai, by such personalities as the four Kumaras, Sanat Kumara, Sanaka, Sanandana, and Sanatan. Muni B, by such great sages. Vibhavyam, worshipable. Katam, how. Vimudha, being fooled by the material nature. Paribhavayami, can I think of you? Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. O my Lord, sages freed from the influence of the three modes of material nature, sages such as the four Kumaras, Sanat, Sanaka, Sanandana, and Sanatan, are able to think of you who are concentrated knowledge. But how can an ignorant person like me think of you? Purport. The word svabhava refers to one's own spiritual nature or original constitutional position. When situated in this original position, the living entity is unaffected by the modes of material nature. Sagunan samatityetan brahma bhuyaya kalpate, Bhagavad Gita 14.26. As soon as one is freed from the influence of the three modes of material nature, he is situated on the Brahman platform. Vivid examples of personalities thus situated are the four Kumaras and Narada. Such authorities can by nature understand the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but a conditioned soul, not freed from the influence of material nature, is unable to realize the Supreme. In Bhagavad Gita 2.45, therefore, Krishna advises Arjuna, Traigunya Vishai Vedha Nistraigunya Bhavarjun. One must rise above the influence of the three modes of material nature. One who stays within the influence of the three material modes is unable to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in today's verse and purport, we hear how difficult it is to constantly think of Krishna and to become self-realized while we're under the influence of the three modes of material nature. And therefore, it is concluded that a devotee keen on advancing in Krishna consciousness must transcend those modes. And it sounds simple in theory, but in practice we see how tightly these modes weave through our consciousness, which then shape the way we think, speak, and act. And most of you know me, so you probably don't need this disclaimer, but I feel it necessary to say I'm not an authority on this. I'm very much entangled in these modes of material nature. But I have been fortunate to hear from those who have transcended them. So everything that I will share today, I have heard from His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. Krishna speaks extensively at length about the modes of material nature in two places. In the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita and in the 25th chapter of the 11th canto, which he speaks to Uddhava. In Bhagavad Gita 14.5, Krishna says, material nature consists of three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. When the living entity comes in contact with nature, he becomes conditioned by these modes. And then in 14.26 of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, one who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. So that begs the question, how do we transcend the modes of material nature? His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj says, like a good physician, we must diagnose the disease properly. It's not enough to recognize the symptoms. We have to understand why the condition exists in order to find the cure. In chapter 25 of the 11th canto, Krishna describes the three modes to Uddhava. Because the spirit soul, bewildered by the false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are actually carried out by material nature, which he also says in Bhagavad Gita. So there is Krishna, the Ishvara, the supreme controller who creates everything. From him expands the Mahatattva, and within it the Pradhana, which contains time and the material modes of nature. When those modes begin to interact, the living entities are awakened, and their interaction forms the basis of the material world. Okay, but what is the basis of our problem? Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that we are eternal spirit souls, and not just that we're eternal spirit souls, we are his eternal parts and parcels. The soul is unborn, eternal, and indestructible. So how is it that the eternal soul becomes bound by the ever-changing modes of material nature, forced to suffer, to enjoy, to die, and to be reborn again and again? The cause is ahankar, false ego. Bewildered by it, we identify with the body, its gender, its race, its family, temperament, and we think, this is me. And from that, this is me, arises mameti, this is mine. At the root of all bondage, our scriptures show us, is envy. And when we forget our true spiritual identity as spirit souls, we begin to think, this is mine, and I am the controller, I am the proprietor, I am the enjoyer. In the heart of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says in 10.8, I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. So real wisdom is to know that truth and engage in Krishna's service. This teaching is also seen in Lord Chaitanya's teachings to Sanatana Goswami and, of course, the rest of the world, when he says, Jivera Swarupa I Krishna Nityadas. The living entity's eternal nature is to be the servant of Krishna. Krishna is the proprietor, controller, and enjoyer. When we forget that and place ourselves at the center of our own ambitions, trying to please our false ego, our identity, reinforce our attachments, we immediately become bound by the three modes of material nature. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 25, verse 6, Krishna tells Uddhava that all the three modes are present within the mentality of I and mine. And how do we rise above that mentality? Srila Prabhupada taught that the literary incarnation of Krishna, Srila Vyasadeva, compiled the four Vedas, the Upanishads, the Idihastas, and the Puranas, and the culmination of that being the Srimad Bhagavatam. Of the 18 Puranas, 6 are meant to raise people from the mode of ignorance. 6 are meant to lift them out of the mode of passion, and 6 to raise them from goodness to transcendence. Across history, across cultures, across the world, religion generally aims to bring people to the mode of goodness, because from goodness one can transcend the modes altogether. In that same verse I just cited, Bhagavatam 11.25.6, it is explained that the modes of material nature are never pure. They constantly mix. What matters is which one is predominating. A person predominated by the mode of goodness is honest, peaceful, religious, spiritually minded, and thus more or less happy, content. And one dominated by the mode of passion is eager for fame, wealth, and lives in anxiety and distress. A person in ignorance oversleeps, indulges in intoxication, and becomes angry, depressed, and cruel. Ignorance breeds unkindness. And when we analyze our own lives, we can see all these three modes mixing and operating within our minds, because that's where it all starts, right? It starts in the mind, and then it comes out the mouth, and then we have the actions. And the purpose of yoga is what? Connect with the Supreme by controlling the mind. All the asanas are just physical means, and this one path of yoga, to control the mind. All that breath work is meant, the pranayama is meant to control the mind. All the other paths of yoga are meant to control the mind. An uncontrolled mind, Krishna says in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, is what? Our worst enemy. And a controlled mind is our best friend. And Krishna also says that he is Suhridam Sarvabhutanam, the best friend of all living entities. We become peaceful when we recognize Krishna as our true well-wishing friend. If we are always thinking of him like he tells Arjuna to do in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Manmana Bhavamad Bhakto, we live in harmony with him. Then our mind becomes our friend. And otherwise, it becomes our enemy. So therefore, many religious paths teach people to cultivate goodness as the foundation for transcendence. When Srila Prabhupada sailed to America on the Jaladuta, he famously wrote these beautiful prayers. I think probably the part that most of us remember from the Jaladuta prayers is where he's telling Krishna that I am your puppet, make me dance, make me dance. There's a lot of other deep philosophical and points in that prayer. And in one section, he cites verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, verses 17 through 21. And I know it's kind of a large section, but they each build on each other, so I will read translations that he writes. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of nature's modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness, and he becomes completely happy. By hearing about Krishna, he cleanses the heart. As the heart becomes cleansed and one develops a higher taste, the Lord reveals himself from within. Thus, by Krishna's grace, we become free from passion and ignorance. Why did Srila Prabhupada cite these prayers when he was on the Jaladuta sailing to America? Thank you. Prabhupada Priya Prabhu said that he was reassuring himself that what he was setting out to do was going to work. Because he knew the people that he was going to meet had not only never heard of Krishna, but they were heavily influenced by these lower modes. And Krishna himself assures the Bhagavad Gita, being free from attachment, fear, and anger, being absorbed in me and taking refuge in me, many great souls in the past have attained transcendental love for me. And to follow in the footsteps of those great souls is the means to become free from those attachments. His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj says also that taking shelter of Krishna is the cure for this predicament we put ourselves in, of thinking that we are the center of everything. Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita, Daivi Heshu Gunamayi Mama Maya Durachaya, this divine energy of mine made of the three modes is very difficult to overcome. Appreciate his honesty. These modes are powerful ropes. Who can possibly conquer them? Yet he also says, Mameva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. One who takes shelter of him easily crosses beyond them. So Holiness Radha Swami Maharaj pointed out that sometimes devotees may think, I have been practicing for years and years and years. Why is it still hard? Krishna is saying it's easy. It is easy, but only when we fully take shelter of him. As long as we are living under the dictation of the modes of nature, thinking I am the doer, thinking I am mine, we haven't yet taken complete shelter. Because when we truly surrender, Krishna also says he preserves what we have and he carries what we lack. The process of Vaidhi Bhakti, of sadhana bhakti, is to reorient the way that we think, speak, and act, and to live again in harmony with Krishna's will and our actual position. In the purport of Bhagavad Gita 14.27, Srila Prabhupada writes that by serving the Lord, honoring prasadam, visiting holy places, reading Krishna's pastimes, and chanting his holy names, one becomes detached from material life. So by learning to take shelter of Krishna, we let go of our false ego and our material entanglements. One story in the Bhagavatam that illustrates this is the story of Gajendra. Gajendra was immensely powerful. The elephants of the material world, they're very powerful. I don't know if you've ever gotten up close to them, or they are huge and massive. They can lift up a tree trunk and like they're picking up a Q-tip. Gajendra was king of the elephants, and he wasn't a material elephant. He was an elephant in the transcendental realm. And again, he's king, so everybody, his situation revolved around him and enjoying. But one day when he was attacked by a crocodile, he fought very hard. He fought very hard to maintain his life and his attachments. He's looking around at all of his family members who are crying. He wants to stay for them, and they want him to stay for them. The Bhagavatam says he fought for hundreds of years to get this crocodile off of him until he was completely, materially exhausted. And then a realization dawned. I'm not getting out of this. I can't do anything about this. I guess I'm not the controller. I am not the enjoyer. I am finished. And at that moment of helplessness and realization, the impressions of his previous devotional life awakened. Remember, Krishna tells us in Bhagavad Gita, he reassures us, all these spiritual credits are never lost. Though Gajendra had once, in his previous life, been a king, he was a very pious king who offended a saint and thus took birth in his next life as an elephant. His past association with devotees reawakened his bhakti and rescued him. In this moment of despair, of this complete helplessness, actually not despair, in this moment of realization of his actual position, of his actual identity, he remembered the Lord. He stopped fighting, took a lotus in his trunk, and offered it to Krishna, saying, I am yours. Whatever I have, whatever I am, I offer it to you. And in that real happiness and shelter, the Lord personally descended to deliver him from the crocodile. When we take refuge in Krishna, the scriptures and acharyas reassure us, we become free from attachment, fear, and anger. Gajendra was very fearful for hundreds of years as he was fighting off that crocodile. But when he had that realization, he became happy. He didn't mind that he was in physical pain. He knew who he really was, and he knew what his relationship with God was. So if that becomes our goal, to live in that spirit of our true identities, in trying to surrender, if we sincerely follow the path given by the great souls, then in time, Krishna will show us mercy and let us feel his shelter. We got to do our part, though. Srila Rupa Goswami describes the qualities of surrender as enthusiasm and patience. And part of enthusiasm is taking on some tapasya, living by certain principles, trying to retrain our brains in how we should be living, thinking, and acting. And true tapasya doesn't just mean merely giving things up. It also means accepting what is favorable for Krishna's pleasure and rejecting what is unfavorable. We know this is difficult because our false ego is pulled by passion and ignorance, and it constantly drags us down. To function in this world, we do need some passion, but it must be balanced by goodness. Otherwise, passion will deteriorate into ignorance, anger, depression, cruelty. Interestingly, in Kali Yuga, arrogance and cruelty often appear attractive and powerful. People want to take shelter of those. I should say materialistic people are attracted to those qualities. But those are actually symptoms of deep ignorance. And therefore the Bhagavatam, especially we hear in Uddhava Gita and we hear in that 14th chapter, it teaches that goodness is the springboard to devotional service. Lord Chaitanya gave us the practical expression of shelter that we're aiming for when he says, Gopi Bhatur Padakamalayar Dasa Dasa Anudas. I have no identity except that I'm the servant of the servant of the servant of the gopis of the Lord. In this age of Kali where modes of material nature create havoc, there is one great benediction, Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanan. The holy name is non-different from Krishna himself, and it is our surest shelter. The four regulative principles given by Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas are not in and of themselves transcendental, because even atheists can be vegetarians and observe the other regulative principles. But the four regulative principles keep our consciousness in the mode of goodness, creating an atmosphere through association with devotees. We can truly take shelter of the holy name. Mahaprabhu taught, Nam Namakari Bahudani Sarva Shaktis. In his names, Krishna has invested all his potencies, all his pastimes. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati explains that by taking shelter of the holy name, Krishna reveals his form, associates, and pastimes. His name opens the doors to the spiritual world and to our own soul's prem. So we can try our best to live in a way that cultivates goodness, humility, honesty. Yet even that is mundane unless we engage in the 9 processes of devotional service and unless we prioritize the instructions of Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas of attentively chanting and trying to take shelter of the holy name. Now that is what I have prepared. It's time now for you to offer your corrections, comments, reflections.
Manjari Gopika, thank you very much for a nice class. Question is about the modes of material nature. We hear that we rise above the modes, like in this lecture right here today. It's very nicely prepared. Very nice quotes from Radhanath Maharaj. We hear that that is the symptom, that you become free from the modes of material nature, but yet sometimes I see that myself, I'm just looking at myself, I'm just really bound. And I want to become free, but, the bed is constantly calling my name. And I keep telling the bed to chant Hare Krishna. And, and that's just where I'm at. And I'm just hoping you can help this old body person here trying to deal with that.
Well, Mother Kunti, you have to sleep sometimes. You get up for Mangal Arati every day, and you listen to Bhagavatam class every day, and I think you take care of Tulsi Maharani every day, and you've raised 2 temple presidents. I think you're doing all right. But Gokul and Prabhu, if you have any insights. You're just saying sometimes you feel like it's not, we're just stuck in a cycle. Are we ever going to know if we're transcending? Gokulananda Prabhu? He's right there. Or Prabhupada Priya Prabhu, someone who has been practicing for many, many years, who understands more deeply.
I've only been practicing for a couple years, but I had a thought. You know, that we're so in the modes of materia and nature are just really controlling us. We're so small, so insignificant. And Srila Prabhupada came with this wonderful phrase, Krishna consciousness. And that's, be conscious of Krishna. If you're fallen, be conscious of Krishna. If you're soaring, be conscious of Krishna. The modes of material nature are going to kick our, but so if we're feeling down, we pray to Krishna. If we're feeling up, we thank Krishna. So if we just become Krishna conscious, if we always stay in the consciousness of Krishna, He pulls us from the modes of material nature. There's really nothing we can do. They're just so strong. I mean, these are the greatest some of the greatest devotees that you can imagine, in charge of the three modes. How can we overcome? So sometimes we're looking for tips, tricks, this and that, but really Srila Prabhupada gave it to us in Krishna consciousness. Pray to Krishna, talk to Krishna, talk to his devotees about Krishna. Krishna, 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 hey.
I will. Prabhupada Priya, were you going to?
Hare Krishna. I mean, I always say this, but we have to accept the principles of accepting what's favorable for our Krishna consciousness and rejecting what's unfavorable. So, yeah, and the different bodies have different needs, right? Children need more sleep. Older people need a little more rest. If you're ill, if you're in a bad state of health, you need a little more rest. So we need to just check ourselves. If I take a little rest now, is that going to help me, in my service, in my relationships with devotees, in my chanting, or is it going to drag me into the mode of ignorance and make things worse? So we just need to be a little introspective and know what our needs are, and we can assess whether taking that little nap is the mode of ignorance, is succumbing to the mode of ignorance, or whether it's actually doing what's required to maintain our physical health and our mental clarity so that we can serve better. And yeah, I mean, there are times when we need to be alert, right? Like attending the morning program whenever we have services or responsibilities to perform. And then there are times when we can kind of like take a little nap, right? So just, it's a matter of time management, squeezing in that rest when it doesn't disturb others, when it doesn't disturb service, when it doesn't get us in trouble, right?
Right.
And it's just so practical, being practical and self-reflective about what our needs are, and then managing those needs so that we can keep everything running smoothly with our services.
Thank you so much. We do often forget that, it's not one size fit all. We each of our bodies have different histories and different needs, but absolutely prioritizing devotional service and seeing how, your schedule affects your devotional service, and if you need more rest, or if maybe you are sleeping too late. Thank you so much, Prabhupada Priya, for reminding us of very simple but very wise things. Did I see another hand up? I know Rupanuga Prabhu posted in the chat. Go ahead and I see. We'll go to Tulsi Saki and then we'll go to Rupanuga Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Manjri Gopika Prabhu, thank you for a very nice, as everybody said, well-prepared class. One comment I had was I was really appreciating this phrase of concentrated knowledge used as a glorification of Krishna. Whenever you say concentrated, to me, like concentrated milk comes to my mind. It's like so relishable. And then thinking of Krishna as concentrated knowledge was something that really stayed with me. Question I have is, how you were describing that all the three modes arise from the I and mine concept. So we also know that, ownership creates, what is it, dust to gold, or, if you want gold, yeah, right? Ownership creates sand into gold. So when you give someone a responsibility to do something, then, they really take ownership of it and really do a good job. So if you want something to be taken care of, or, you give it to someone who's responsible, and they'll, really take care of it. So in this instance, we're seeing that, the person who is taking ownership has a concept of I in mind, like, okay, this is my service to Krishna, and let me do the best. So isn't that like a way in which we can dovetail this I mind?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
But because if you're focusing on absolutely your identity as you're a servant, and this is your service to the Supreme Lord, then absolutely you dovetail that. I remember when I was newer to Krishna consciousness, I was living in New York City. My first ever seva at the temple, I went to Radha Mulidhar at Bhakti Center, was sewing flower garlands for the Varaha Narasimha Shaligram Shila. And it was a good service because, I had very simple garland. It's quite small, right? So, it was good for me to learn. I didn't need a lot of intricate things. But over time then, whenever I would go for darshan, or I'd be looking at pictures online, I would zoom in on him, and I was, I don't really, next time I'm going to make a different garland for him, or I think he deserves more colors, or every time I would always check on how he was dressed, So that service built an attachment in me to Lord Nrsimhadev. So in that way, I think it can, you're right, having that attachment of wanting him to look better, to feel better, for everybody to see how beautiful he is. Absolutely. Is it okay if we go to Rupanuga Prabhu's question? Because I know he's been waiting. Not that I have a profound answer, but His Grace Rupanuga Prabhu asks, when a person faces such adversity that he is confronted with losing job, income, shelter, family, and friends, he might plead with God to rescue him. Why does he not turn to the Supreme before disaster strikes? When we see this in the story of Gajendra, he was completely forgetful of his previous life. There's an entire chapter in Srimad Bhagavatam of these gorgeous prayers by Gajendra. He clearly has a deep reservoir of spiritual connection, of spiritual knowledge, yet he didn't remember it at all when he was enjoying with his family members, when he was king of the elephants, when the weather was perfect. He only remembered when disaster struck. I can only make the assumption, because of course I've seen it in my own life too. It's so, when something is going wrong, you realize, I'm not in control. I don't actually know what's going to happen. I've done steps A through D, but now the outcome is not up to me. And then all of a sudden your brain connects with your heart and you go, oh, there's someone else in charge of this. I was just playing pretend. I was playing CEO this whole time. I think that's just a psychological condition, and perhaps it is indicative of where we are in the modes of material nature. But our process of bhakti is supposed to help us if we are engaging in sadhana, if we are following the 9 processes of devotional service. It's supposed to strengthen our minds to be focused on Krishna for longer and longer periods and remember who we actually are as his servants, so that we are remembering him before disaster strikes. But most people, many don't have the great benediction that we have. It is famously said, at war, people, there are snipers on top of buildings, but there are trenches that people dig, especially in previous generations when war was being fought. And they're called foxholes because they're very small holes. So if the enemy was walking by, you don't want them to see like, oh, here's a huge hole. Maybe somebody's hiding inside it. Instead, it's very small and concealed, and there are bushes and rocks. So it's called a foxhole. And the soldiers hide in there so they can, shoot the other combatants. And there's a famous phrase, there are no atheists in foxholes. So once you shoot at someone and they know you're in there, you're actually more in danger because you have probably no way out of this foxhole. So you think you're in control, you think you're well trained, you think you're the best shooter, you're tough, you're brave, but when you're in that foxhole, you don't actually know if you're going to make it out. And you've never been to a church or a synagogue or a temple in your life, all of a sudden you start praying. There is this very deep realization that you are a material body that is very temporary and you're not in control. I don't think that answered your question, Rupanuga Prabhu, but maybe someone else has some insights or additional discussion.
Little loudmouth sister. Hare Krishna, Rupanuga Prabhu, thank you for such a wonderful question. What comes to my mind is the enjoying spirit. So when everything is going nicely, we have a tendency to enjoy. And that enjoying spirit removes a lot of our understanding of dependency, that we are dependent. Anyway, that's just a little tidbit. Anybody else? Anyone else on Rupanuga's question? Okay.
I actually, a little story. Some years ago, I was talking to, because I'm appreciating this, the modes of material nature, this discussion. It was really nice. We were talking about book distribution, and we were talking about how amazing book distribution is and stuff. And it just hit me like, book distribution is so amazing. Like, why aren't we going out all the time? And he looked at me, he said, the 3 modes of material nature. And it hit me so hard that these things are keeping me from so much bliss. And it was like, at the same time, I felt so depressed, but yet so enthusiastic, like, here's an identification of what is stopping us from, it's not just book distribution, right? There's so many things that we do that in Krishna consciousness that are blissful, that we just go, why? I don't get around to it, or something else, or this or that. And these 3 modes of material nature are just stopping us from so much bliss. So I was really appreciating that remembrance of this, that we need to overcome.
Oh, thank
by
you for
being
sharing
Krishna
that.
conscious.
It's very inspiring.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, you mentioned the 11th canto, chapter 25, and there's a really beautiful, very clear description of the 3 modes there. So I was looking at it a little bit, and there's one verse here that really caught my attention, and I thought it's
oh, wonderful.
It's share worthy. So this is 11:25:19. It says, with the increase of the mode of goodness, the strength. Sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied. With the increase of the mode of goodness, the strength of the demigods similarly increases. When passion increases, the demoniac becomes strong. And with the rise of ignorance, O Uddhava, the strength of the most wicked increases. So most wicked, the word is Rakshasa. And in the word for word it says the man-eating monsters.
Ooh, I didn't realize
So
that was the word
I was
for it.
thinking that, the next time we're about to give in to the mode of ignorance, we can think, well, okay, not only is this going to mess up my own life and make me more depressed and, more miserable and less enthused, but also it's giving strength to the wicked, to the Rakshasas. Like every time, because what's creating the atmosphere of the mode of ignorance in the world? It's us, right? It's the people of the world who are choosing to be in the mode of ignorance, or at least choosing not to rise above it, or, get over it, get out of it. So every time we succumb to the mode of ignorance, we're strengthening the Rakshasas. Every time we succumb to the mode of passion, we're strengthening the Asuras. But every time we strive for goodness and actually act in the mode of goodness, then we're strengthening the demigods, the saintly people, and their influence on the world. So sometimes we complain, the world's in such a mess, all of our leaders are demoniac or whatever. But it's like that because those people are becoming strong because everybody is choosing to be in the mode of ignorance or passion. So it's not just our votes in a, political election that are nominating these people. It's our votes at every moment by choosing which mode we're going to live in.
Thank you so much. That's really powerful, especially because often we think, I'm just one person. How can I make a difference? There's so many problems in the world, but actually we can with our consciousness. Did you have something? Did somebody raise their hand? No? Sorry, I thought I saw a hand up. Daniel, Prabhu. So good to see you. Get ready, everybody. Daniel's a poet.
No, I'm not. I didn't know it. Thank you so much for your service and your teaching. I always appreciate it. I have some notes, and I was thinking about. Okay, so I wrote the exhibition of bewilderment by differentiation, because that stood out to me. In goodness, passion, and ignorance, how do we transcend the modes of material nature so intrinsic in our lives? We must diagnose the disease. We are these internal parts and parcels. How do we become bound by material nature, false ego, identifying with the body, this is me, this is mine, envy? Our eternal nature is to be Krishna's servant, forgetting that we become entrapped in reinforcing our false ego. In the mode of goodness, we have the chance to escape the modes altogether. The purpose of yoga is to connect with the Supreme through practicing control of the mind. A self-controlled mind becomes our friend. The mind craves structure. This is my thought, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but the mind craves structure, clarity, and connection. Without discipline, the mind goes wild, attempting to create it and protect it. Many great souls have attained transcendental love for me. The quote, "It is possible to transcend the modes easily by taking shelter of Krishna." Krishna is saying it's easy. Why is it so hard? Sadhana bhakti, to reorient ourselves to our true position as Krishna's service. By chanting his holy names, reading scripture, serving devotees, the Elephant King fought for hundreds of years to keep his identity alive. His moment of realization of his actual identity through realized helplessness, he offered himself to Krishna. When he remembered who he really was and his relationship with God, he was happy, instead of in fear to lose his material identity. The holy name is indifferent from Krishna himself, and I thought about how that actually relates to the Bible verse, "In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God," John 1:1. And then take instructions from acharyas, chanting, take full shelter in the holy name. It sounds like taking shelter, my thought. It sounds like taking shelter requires surrender, and surrender requires admitting helplessness, that all is Krishna's anyways, and there's nothing we can do or have without his permission. Different bodies have different needs. If taking rest now, will it help me maintain my physical health and help me to serve better, or will I sink into depression and fear that immobilizes me? I and mine dovetailed into, this is my service for the Supreme Lord. Service builds attachment to devotees, and Krishna reciprocates. Chanting and reading reorient and reinforce the remembering of our true position as servants of Krishna, and hearing Krishna's pastimes build attachment to him. Then Krishna takes those attachments to the devotees and to him, and with our consent elevates it into transcendental love.
Thank you so much, Daniel. I look forward to your Bhagavatam class one day. Thank you all so much for your participation and for tolerating me. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Yeah, we do every day. Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Charani Nirvisheshwara Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaurabhuta. Hare Krishna. Hey, Govinda. How are you? I sing Damodar Ashtakam. Okay. I want to listen to Sakshi. Namameshwaram Sachidanandarupam Lasat Kundalam Kule Vrajamanam Namameshwaram Sachidanandarupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Vrajamana Yashoda Biyolukha Ladhava Manam Param परामृष्टमात्यन्त तो धृत्य गोप्या यशोदाभियोलोकराधव मानं परामृष्टमात्यन्त तो धृत्य गोप्या यशोदाभियोलोकराधवमाना परामृष्टमात्यन्ततो धृत्य गोप्या परामृष्टमात्यन्ततो धृत्य गोप्या नमामीश्वरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानं नमः